Hi guys, Captain Nick here again with MarineMax in St. Pete.
Captain Keith coming to you from Clearwater.
And today we're going to be talking about cast nets. In Florida, where Keith and I are at, a lot of us learn how to throw a net before we learn how to ride a bike. And it's a very important part to your fishing experience out on the water, being able to catch live bait. But at first glance, you look at these cast nets, okay, how do they work? What do they do? What kind of bait are you trying to catch? And what are some of the differences between these two nets, Keith?
Absolutely. So Nick's got a 1-inch mesh net. So if you were to take a look at this close up, you're going to see when you stretch this out, you can actually probably go up against my black darker shirt. So that's a very small mesh, only going 1 inch when you stretch it out. As opposed to the net I've got here, you look at the length of that, this is like 2.5 or 2 3/4 inches. So you got to have the right size net for the right size bait that you're targeting, right? So if we're looking for small white bait or sardines, this net's not going to work. They're going to be able to swim right through the mesh netting. This one is going to be small enough, it's going to keep the bait inside it. The worst thing you can do, it's horrible. You know, you already know what I'm going to say.
You're going to Christmas tree it.
Christmas tree.
Yeah.
What's that?
Christmas treeing a net is when all the bait fish gets in and they're a little bit too small and they can barely get through there, so they get gill netted.
They get gilled, so they're trying to swim through and they get stuck.
So you'll throw a net on a bunch of baits that are just small enough to get through the hole, but just big enough to get stuck, and you'll spend the next, what, 30 minutes just picking out little pieces of bait that are all stuck in there, and they smell. You leave a couple in there, you find them a couple days later, and it's just not a good time. So,
I mean, if you're a true fisherman around here, you're going to have a bunch of different nets, a bunch of different lengths, a bunch of different mesh size and all that stuff. You can't just have one.
And now we're going to give you guys a little bonus how-to video. And before we do it, I get it, your granddaddy showed you how to throw a cast net one way. Not that one way's wrong or not that one way's right. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say, right? Or a catfish.
And no catfish in this.
And we're going to show you how we do it. If you guys have a better way, drop them in the comments, and let's talk about how you like to throw a cast net.
I mean, that's true. I mean, you guys, we're gonna get critiqued. I know this for a fact. There's a ton of videos out there. There's the triple load, which is probably the most,
a lot of
favorite.
Like
a lot of the big nets. But I kind of like to stay dry if I'm just gonna throw it once or twice. So what you want to do, well, I'll do it, is you just kind of spread your arms out equal distance each time, and get any kind of loops out of your line. Of course, it's gonna loop up. So they're like 2 foot or so little loops. Grab the horn, and what you're going to do is just come down a couple feet and just let that horn lay down. Then I'll grab the net somewhere around waist height, and with this one I'm just going to grab it again. And then here you got options. You can put it in your teeth and start slinging it over your shoulder, but then you're going to be getting wet. So if you just let the net hang, and I can just kind of split the net basically in half, right in there somewhere. Take it and roll it over my wrist that I'm holding all the rest of the net in the left hand. Reach down on that lead line. Okay, grab that. Then I'll put this in my teeth. Then I'll reach down as far as I can, grab the lead line there, roll that back over into my hand, and then just kind of roll back and then push it out almost like you're throwing a frisbee. So it'll go back, and then it bounce off the floor.
So that's one way to do it. This is how I do it. So same as Keith, I'm gonna wanna put the loops in the cast net. Now you don't want to make them too small or else they'll bind up on your hand. That's really important. If you do little ones like that, one, you're going to be there forever, and two, it's going to get caught on your hand. So what I like to do, 2 to 3 feet, just like that. Then once you get to the horn, very similar to Keith, you're gonna grab it. Now, depending on the size of the net, I believe this is an 8-footer.
That's 10.
10-footer. So on some of the smaller ones, you can get away with 1 wrap. On this one, you're probably gonna wanna do 2 because you want it at waist height. Because if it's a little bit too long, then you're not gonna be able to swing that net. Now, if you've got an elevated surface on your boat right here, I try to avoid putting it in my teeth. Just if you got nice fake teeth like me, you don't want them coming out. Plus, these lines are made out of lead, so of course you don't want lead in your mouth. I like to grab it right there. Just throw it over my shoulder like that. Then I grab the front. If you have an elevated surface, a neat little rule of thumb, 10-foot net, you're gonna do this 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're gonna split the net in half just about. Now this is very important. On that back lead line, I grab that with my pinky like so, and then I take the rest of my hand and I come around. Then I'm gonna bunch it up like that. And the point of that, you're gonna let it roll off your hand. So you've got the net like this, you're splitting about 2 parts here. You're gonna load up. And you're gonna let it roll off of your left hand like that. Then you're gonna let that net sink to the bottom, reload, shake the grass out of it, then you'll have a bunch of bait. That's how you throw a cast net. Now, those are just 2 ways. Go ahead, bring the critique. There's probably 100 different ways to throw a cast net, but those are a couple popular ways. So any critique, suggestions, drop them in the comments, and let's go catch some bait.
No doubt, man. Just whatever works for you, you know? So practice with it. Don't be afraid of, you know, starting out. I'd rather have a smaller net.
Like a 6-footer or something.
Or a 6, 8, whatever, that you open up 100%. Then your first net, you go get a 12-footer and you're only getting it, you know, 70% open.
Yeah.
You know, so start out a little smaller, get used to that, then go ahead and go on up to something a little bigger.
Hopefully this helps. See you guys on the water.